You don't fall into addiction because you love pleasure. Pleasure is just the mask. The private beginning is simpler and more brutal. The world becomes too loud inside your own body. You try to sleep, but your mind won't stop. You try to be normal, but your nervous system feels like it's holding a live wire. Then you find something, a substance, a behavior, a ritual that turns the volume down. The first time it works, it feels like mercy. Not because life becomes beautiful, but because life becomes bearable. That's why the darkest part of addiction isn't the binge. It's the silence afterward. It's being alone with your consciousness again and realizing the relief was rented, not owned. You pay for it later with interest. The bill always comes due at the worst possible time. You tell yourself you will stop, you promise it with a seriousness that feels sacred, and still some invisible force pulls you back. That's when the mind starts its cruel theology. You must be weak, you must be broken, you must not want it enough. But that story is too small for what's actually happening, because there is a phenomenon mystics, philosophers, and psychologists have described for centuries. The moment the old self cannot continue, but the new self has not arrived. A threshold, a hollowing out. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul. He wasn't writing about addiction, yet the architecture is eerily similar. The lights go out, not as punishment, but because your old way of seeing can no longer guide you. What used to soothe you stops soothing you. What used to motivate you stops motivating you. Even pleasure begins to feel thin, mechanical, almost sad, and you start to panic. Not because life is hard, but because you can't find yourself inside it. This is the dark night of addiction, the stage where escape stops being a celebration and becomes a procedure. You don't even want it the way you used to. You need it. Not to feel good, but to feel less. To feel nothing. To be spared from your inner weather. And this video isn't here to scold you. It's here to make the suffering intelligible. When you understand the dark night, you stop fighting blind. You stop attacking the symptom while ignoring the wound. You begin to see the exit, not as a miracle, but as a slow return to yourself. So walk with me, like a friend telling the truth without humiliating you, like a calm voice beside you in the wreckage saying, "This is what is happening. This is why it feels so powerful, and this is where the exit begins. Not with shame, not with slogans, with clarity." The dark night isn't a metaphor. It's the moment your usual explanations stop working. It's not just that you're using too much. It's that even the reasons you used to tell yourself no longer feel convincing. You can't romanticize it. You can't pretend it's still fun. The addiction becomes naked, mechanical, stripped of illusion. And that's terrifying, because illusions keep most people functional. In the early stages, addiction feels like a solution. It offers predictable relief in a world that feels unpredictable. If you have ever felt emotionally exposed, like your skin is too thin for life, you understand how seductive that relief is. It doesn't just soften pain, it compresses reality into something simpler. It turns chaos into a button you can press. Press it, and you disappear for a while. But the dark night arrives when the button starts failing. The relief shortens, the cost increases, the aftermath becomes heavier than the high. And then something even more unsettling happens. Your identity begins to crack. Because the coping mechanism wasn't only something you did, it became part of how you survived. It became your secret companion, your private religion. When it stops delivering what it promised, you don't only lose a high, you lose the structure that held you together. This is why people relapse even after sincere progress. The mind thinks it's solving a chemical problem, but the psyche is facing an existential one. Who am I without this? How do I regulate my inner world without my emergency exit? How do I sit with my own mind without running? Those questions can feel like a cliff edge, because addiction wasn't only reducing pain, it was reducing awareness. And awareness, when it returns too quickly, can feel unbearable. That's the paradox. You want freedom, but freedom means feeling. Freedom means standing inside your own life without anesthesia. The dark night is the period where that truth becomes unavoidable. The old self collapses because it was built around escape, around the belief that your inner world is too much. The collapse is painful, yes, but it is also honest. It's the first time the illusion breaks enough for a new option to appear. If you're in this stage right now, if you feel empty, restless, depressed, agitated, if you feel like nothing satisfies you, don't rush to label it as failure. It might be the beginning of the real work, rebuilding an inner foundation that cravings were standing in for. The dark night is not the end of you. It is the end of the version of you that survived by disappearing. Addiction is rarely a chase for pleasure. It's a negotiation, a private bargain with your own nervous system. You don't say it out loud, but the deal is clear. I will give you my sensitivity, my clarity, my tomorrow, if you give me 1 hour where I don't have to feel this. And in the beginning, it feels like a fair trade. Because what you are trying to escape is not always simple sadness. It's often a layered storm, a tight chest that never fully relaxes, a mind that keeps scanning for danger even when nobody is there, a loneliness that doesn't come from being alone but from feeling unseen while surrounded by people. Maybe you carry grief you never metabolized. Maybe you carry trauma that taught your body to stay braced. Maybe you carry a quiet sense that life should mean something, and it hurts that you can't touch that meaning. So when a substance or a behavior gives you silence, it doesn't just feel good, it feels like permission, like a doorway out of your own prison. That is why moral lectures bounce off. They are speaking to the surface, while a deeper part of you is thinking, you do not understand how unbearable it is in here. But the bargain has a hidden clause. It always does. The price is not only the hangover, the withdrawal, the money, the relationships. The deeper price is that every time you trade feelings for peace, you trade away the very instrument that could guide you out. Because emotions, messy as they are information. They are signals. They are the psyche saying, something is wrong, something is missing, something needs attention. Numb yourself long enough, and you stop receiving the messages. You stop learning your own language. You stop trusting your perceptions. You become a stranger to yourself. Then you wonder why life feels empty. The dark night sharpens when you realize the bargain is no longer giving what it promised. The piece gets shorter. The dose gets higher. The ritual gets more desperate. You say, I need to stop. And part of you means it, but another part whispers, if we stop, we have to feel everything we've been running from. If addiction is a bargain, recovery is not just quitting. Recovery is renegotiation. It is learning how to create safety without self-destruction. You can't do that by attacking yourself. You can only do it by understanding what the bargain was protecting you from. And when you see the bargain clearly, you stop calling yourself weak. You start calling yourself exhausted. You start calling yourself human. At some point, addiction stops feeling like a choice and starts feeling like a ceremony. The same hour, the same hiding place, the same preparation, the same little lies you tell yourself so it feels inevitable. And the mind loves inevitability, because inevitability means you don't have to wrestle with conscience. You can surrender and let the ritual carry you. Notice how the ritual begins. Something tightens first. A thought, a memory, a social moment that drains you, a boredom that feels like an empty room with no doors. Then you arrange your world around the next escape. You check time, you make excuses, you position yourself, and already before you take anything, relief starts to arrive. Because the ritual promises an ending. It whispers, soon you won't have to be you. That's the hook. The ritual doesn't only deliver numbness, it delivers structure. It gives your chaos a storyline. Tension, release, forgetfulness, aftermath. The more your inner life feels unpredictable, the more seductive that structure becomes. But this is where the cage forms, quietly. If relief is only available through the ritual, then your nervous system starts to treat the ritual like survival. You don't reach for it because you want pleasure. You reach for it because your body believes it is the only door out. Then the dark night deepens, because the ritual steals your freedom long before it steals your health. You can't fully enjoy anything without calculating how it affects the ritual. You can't relax naturally. You can't sit in stillness without craving. Even joy becomes suspicious because joy means presence, and presence means vulnerability. You become trapped in a contradiction. The ritual is the thing you use to escape suffering, yet it becomes the main source of suffering you can't escape. Rituals are spiritual technology. They shape attention. They train the mind. They teach the psyche what is sacred. If your ritual is addiction, your psyche learns a terrible lesson. The only sacred relief is self-erasure. Peace is not something you cultivate, it's something you purchase with your own disappearance. If you want a turning point, start with a sharp question, not, how do I stop forever? Ask, what is my ritual trying to protect me from feeling right before I begin it? The seconds before the ceremony are the doorway to the truth. Once you can stay conscious in that doorway, even briefly, the cage stops being invisible. If you want to understand why addiction feels persuasive, stop staring at the substance and start looking at the emptiness it targets. Addiction isn't random. It moves like water toward a crack. It aims itself at the places you feel unfinished, unheld, or undefined. There are 3 voids it tries to fill. The first is the void of regulation. This is the body problem disguised as a moral problem. Your nervous system doesn't know how to come down. You carry stress like a permanent posture. Even when nothing is happening, your insides feel braced, wired, on guard. In that state, a substance isn't a party, it's a sedative for existence. It gives your body a shortcut to calm, and when you've lived a long time without calm, a shortcut feels like salvation. The tragedy is that the shortcut teaches your body it doesn't need to learn, it only needs to escape. Over time, natural calm becomes unfamiliar, even frightening. The second is the void of connection. Not social connection, soul connection, being emotionally met, feeling safe with someone, feeling you don't have to perform to deserve presence. When that is missing, the world becomes something you endure rather than inhabit. Addiction becomes a counterfeit companion, predictable, available, never demanding an explanation, never risking rejection. It offers closeness without vulnerability. The third is the void of meaning. This one disguises itself as boredom, but it's spiritual starvation. Days pass and you can't touch what they are for. Life happens, but you don't feel inside it. When meaning is absent, the psyche does something desperate. It creates intensity. Addiction becomes a way to simulate depth when ordinary reality feels flat. But it's false depth, a storm that looks like purpose from far away. Here's the cruel part. Addiction can cover these voids, but it can't heal them. It can only postpone the conversation. And postponement is not healing, it's debt. So the void grows, regulation becomes harder, connection becomes scarier, meaning becomes thinner. Then you use again, because using deepened the emptiness you were trying to escape. But once you can name which void is pulling you, you stop fighting a fog. You get specific. You realize you're not craving the drug, you're craving calm, closeness, or purpose. And that's when the next layer appears, because when those needs stay unnamed, they don't vanish. They gather in the dark and start driving. There's a version of you that doesn't show up in daylight. Not because it's evil, but because it was never welcomed. The shadow self is simply the parts of your nature you learn to hide in order to be loved, to be safe, to be acceptable. Anger you were punished for. Need you were shamed for. Sensitivity you were told was weakness. Grief you had to swallow quickly so you wouldn't bother anyone. You didn't eliminate those parts. You exiled them. And what gets exiled doesn't die. It waits. Addiction becomes the perfect hiding place for the shadow. Under the influence, you can feel without having to explain. You can stop performing. You can be messy. You can be human. Then you return, and shame rushes in like a guard, dragging you back into the old identity. Be good, be controlled, be quiet, be strong. So the shadow learns a brutal lesson. The only time I am allowed to exist is when we are escaping. This is why the dark night can feel like you are being driven by someone else. You can genuinely want to stop and still watch your hands move toward the ritual like they have their own memory. It isn't supernatural, it's psychological. The shadow is seeking expression, and if it can't speak in the open, it speaks through compulsion. Pay attention to what your addiction releases in you. Some people don't chase a high. They chase permission. Permission to stop caring. permission to stop trying, permission to be angry, permission to not be okay. The tragedy is the shadow isn't asking for destruction, it's asking for acknowledgement. It wants a seat at the table of consciousness. If you keep acting like you must be pure to be worthy, whatever is impure will keep surfacing through sabotage. Recovery becomes integration. Not killing the shadow, but bringing it into the light so it doesn't rule from the dark. And once you start that, the next enemy reveals itself. The thing that keeps the shadow underground and keeps the ritual alive. Shame. People talk about shame like it shows up after the damage. In the dark night, shame is not just the aftermath. Shame is the fuel. You lose self-respect. And then the mind does something that seems logical but is lethal. It turns an action into an identity. It doesn't say, I did something harmful. It says, I am harmful. I am weak. I am disgusting. Once you believe that, relapse stops being a surprise. It becomes consistency. The psyche tries to match behavior to identity, because a painful identity still feels safer than uncertainty. Shame also isolates you. It makes you hide. It teaches you to perform wellness while privately bleeding. And isolation is oxygen to addiction. Shame says, don't seek help, you will be judged. Don't tell the truth, you will be rejected. Do it quietly, then come back pretending you are fine. That is the trap. Not the craving, but the secrecy. And notice this. Shame doesn't always sound harsh. Sometimes it sounds reasonable. It sounds like discipline. You need to be tougher. You need to punish yourself so you stop. But punishment is still intimacy with violence. When you attack yourself, you keep your body in threat mode. A threatened nervous system will reach for relief, so the cycle becomes perfect. Use, shame, stress, craving, use, again. The breakthrough is not motivational. It's relational. It's the moment you stop speaking to yourself like an enemy, not because you're excusing anything, but because you refuse to add poison to poison. Responsibility without cruelty is strength. Accountability without humiliation is maturity. When you practice that, the ritual loses its sacred status. It becomes what it always was, a strategy, not a destiny. And then the dark night shifts into a phase that feels bleak and confusing, a phase where even pleasure stops working, where life looks gray and distant. This is where many people panic, because they mistake winter for a life sentence. This stage terrifies people because nobody prepares you for it. You stop using, or you cut back, and instead of relief, you feel emptiness. The color drains out of the world. Music feels distant. Food tastes flat. Conversations feel like you're watching them from behind glass. You start thinking, is this who I am without the escape? Is life actually this gray? This flatness has a name, anhedonia. The reward system recalibrating after being flooded with artificial peaks. But the experience feels spiritual, not clinical. It feels like you lost your ability to feel meaning. Like your soul is in a low-lit room and you can't find the door handle. You understand why people go back, not because they want the high, but because they can't tolerate the gray. This is the dark night, when your fantasy that sobriety instantly restores you falls apart. The dark night laughs at timelines. It says, you will sit in the aftermath of all the times you outsourced aliveness. You will learn pleasure, the slow way, the human way. Until your system relearns, you will feel like something essential is missing. The mind becomes dangerous here because it turns symptoms into philosophy. Life is meaningless. I ruined my brain. I will never enjoy anything again. Those conclusions feel logical because they match your body, but they're not pure truth. They're a temporary winter being misread as permanent climate. This is also where regret and grief show up louder, because numbness used to be a buffer. You see the cost, the relationships strained, the opportunities missed, the person you could have been. The ritual will call itself a reset. It will say, just once. But it isn't a reset. It's reopening the wound. So the real question isn't, how do I feel good again right now? It's, can I stay present long enough for feeling to return naturally? Can I accept that pleasure will be quiet for a season, and meaning will be subtle, and I will live on small signals instead of fireworks. This is where transformation happens. The old self was addicted to intensity. The new self is learning depth. If you're here, don't face it alone. Isolation lies. Get real support, professional support if you can. Not because you're weak, but because the gray can distort your thinking and you deserve a witness who can hold you steady. And now we arrive at the gate that decides whether this pain becomes wisdom or torment. The second suffering. The suffering you add when you fight what you feel. There's the pain that happens because you're human, and then there's the pain you manufacture because you refuse to be human. The dark night feels endless when you add the second kind. The inner argument, the constant resistance, the demand that discomfort must disappear now. The voice says, I shouldn't feel this. I can't handle this. This proves something is wrong with me. The moment you believe that voice, your body enters emergency mode. Emergency mode demands an exit. The ritual starts to glow like a rescue flare. Watch the sequence. A craving arrives, or sadness, or agitation, or emptiness. The first wave is sensation. The second wave is meaning. You interpret the sensation as danger. You say, this will last forever. I'm sliding back. I'm not built for life without anesthesia. Then your system believes you. If you declare a feeling unbearable, your body will mobilize to escape it. The dark night teaches a different skill. Stay in the room with yourself. Discomfort is not always a threat. Sometimes it's information returning. Sometimes it's grief finally speaking because it senses you might be strong enough to hear it. So you meet the feeling with observation. Where is it in my body? What did it arrive after? What am I afraid will happen if I don't escape? This is not spiritual performance, it's maturity. You stop treating emotion like an enemy and start treating it like a visitor with a message. Some feelings need help, especially if trauma is involved. That's not failure, it's biology and history. But the core skill remains. Stop feeding the second suffering. Stop insulting yourself for being in pain. Stop demanding instant relief as proof you're healing. Healing often feels like discomfort leaving the body in slow motion. When you stop arguing with reality, reality becomes workable. The craving may still speak, but it no longer sounds like a commandment. It becomes a wave. Rise, crest, fall. And once you can ride one wave without obeying it, you begin to notice something unexpectedly powerful. Tiny, honest moments that quietly break the spell. Most people imagine recovery as a dramatic event, a final decision, a heroic personality upgrade. The dark night rarely ends with fireworks. It ends with micro-truths, small moments where you stop lying in one specific place, for one specific reason. That tiny honesty changes the architecture of your mind. A micro-truth is admitting, I'm not craving pleasure, I'm craving relief. Or, I don't even want to do this, I just don't know what else to do with what I'm feeling. That sentence breaks the spell, because the spell feeds on fog. The ritual survives when everything is blurry. The ritual weakens when language becomes precise. Another micro-truth is catching the doorway moment before you use. The 10 minutes where your mind arranges the escape and calls it destiny. You notice the bargaining, the rationalizing, the permission slip. Then you do something radical. You slow down. You refuse to move at the speed of compulsion. That pause is consciousness reclaiming territory. Then there's the micro-truth of the right exposure. Not broadcasting everything. The right person, the right sentence. I'm not okay, and I don't trust myself right now. Shame hates that sentence because it breaks isolation. Addiction hates it because it replaces secrecy with relationship. The brain changes faster when pain is witnessed without humiliation. There's also the micro-truth of environment. This doesn't sound spiritual, but the nervous system is literal. If you keep the same cues, the same routes, the same late-night patterns, you are asking willpower to fight architecture. A micro-truth is admitting, I keep walking into the same traps and then acting surprised by the outcome. You don't need a new personality first. You need fewer traps. Micro-truths build identity without forcing it. You stop trying to become perfect and start becoming truthful. A truthful person needs the ritual less because truth reduces inner friction. It makes pain workable. But micro-truths alone can't hold you if your body stays in alarm. Even the sharpest mind will reach for escape when the nervous system is screaming. Which brings us to the next gate: regulation before motivation. Motivation is a sparkle. Regulation is a foundation. In the dark night, many people are trying to run a long-distance race on a broken ankle, then blaming their character for limping. Your body is overwhelmed. Your nervous system is exhausted. An exhausted nervous system doesn't respond to inspirational speeches. It responds to safety. Addiction becomes powerful when it is the only reliable method your system knows for turning off the alarm. That's why the exit can't begin with moral pressure. It begins by rebuilding an inner home where you can actually live, a place inside your own skin that doesn't feel like an emergency. Regulation means learning how to come down without self-erasure, learning to feel a wave without interpreting it as a verdict. Most relapses don't start with craving. They start with depletion: poor sleep, too much stimulation, too little food, too many days of isolation, too many small compromises that leave your system raw. Then craving arrives like a firefighter in a city you allowed to burn. So you stop pretending you're a mind floating above biology. You treat the body as sacred equipment. Sleep becomes non-negotiable when possible. Food becomes stabilizing. Movement becomes medicine rather than punishment. Routine becomes a nervous system handshake with reality. When your baseline is calmer, temptation loses its throne. The ritual stops feeling like the only door. Regulation also means boundaries that look rude to your old self. You stop entertaining people and environments that dysregulate you, then acting surprised you want to escape. You stop feeding your attention with midnight chaos and expecting peace at dawn. You treat attention like currency, spend it on stress, pay with craving. When you regulate, the dark night changes texture. The emptiness becomes less hostile. The bleak thoughts become easier to question. You don't suddenly become free, but you become capable. You become someone who can hold discomfort without immediately converting it into self-destruction. But there is a trap waiting here, especially for intelligent people. The trap is trying to replace addiction with discipline alone, swapping one whip for another. It looks clean on the outside, but inside it can be the same violence renamed. The idea sounds noble and ruins people quietly. I will beat addiction by becoming harder than it, more strict, more controlled. You stop the substance and replace it with a regime, rigid routines, harsh self-talk, punishment dressed as productivity. From the outside, it looks like strength. Inside, it can be the same trap with better lighting. If addiction was an attempt to escape pain, discipline without tenderness becomes another way to deny pain. It says, we will not feel, we will perform. We will not need, we will conquer. The nervous system hears that as threat, not healing. A threatened system searches for relief. You can hold the line for a while, especially if pride is your fuel, but pressure builds. Then one crack appears, one lonely weekend, one argument, one sleepless night, and the old ritual returns with a familiar seduction. I can make all this tension stop. That's why white-knuckling fails. Not because discipline is bad, but because discipline is not connection. It doesn't answer the deeper question. What were you trying to survive? What did your body learn? What did your heart never get permission to say? If you only change behavior and not your relationship with your inner world, you will keep needing an exit from yourself. Discipline can even become its own addiction. The rush of control, the identity of being untouchable, the pride of never slipping. It's a fragile clean. Life will press on you. Grief will arrive. Stress will spike. Old memories will surface. If your only strategy is control, then the moment life becomes uncontrollable, you collapse. And the collapse feeds shame, and the ritual returns. So what replaces addiction is not discipline alone. It's devotion. Devotion to truth. Devotion to regulation. Devotion to real connection. Devotion to meaning. Discipline is a tool. Devotion is a direction. Discipline says, I will force myself to comply. Devotion says, I will learn how to live, so escape is less necessary. And once you understand that, the dark night reveals the question it has been asking from the beginning. What is the addiction protecting you from? Addiction is a cover, a crude kind of protection, like putting a heavy blanket over a fire alarm instead of dealing with the smoke. The ritual tries to keep you from feeling something your system believes would destroy you. The dark night is the moment that protection stops working. So ask the real question, not in theory, in your life. What arrives in the minutes before you use? What thought? What memory? What loneliness? What fear is trying to enter the room? For some people, it's grief, the kind that changes your identity. Grief you never had permission to mourn. Grief that would require you to admit you lost something you can't get back. The ritual steps in and says, "Don't open that door. You won't survive it." For others, it's anger. Clean anger, intelligent anger that points directly at what was unfair, what was violated, what was stolen. But you were trained to be agreeable. You learned anger makes you unlovable. So you swallow it. Then the ritual sedates it, because if it rises, it might finally tell the truth about people you still want to idealize. For others, it's intimacy, being seen without a performance, being known without a mask. If your nervous system associates closeness with disappointment or abandonment, you protect yourself from connection by building a private world. Addiction is a private world with locked doors. It feels safer than needing anyone. And sometimes it's meaning itself, the fear that you are wasting your life, the suspicion you were made for something deeper than distraction. That longing can hurt more than pain, because pain at least has a story. Meaninglessness has none. The ritual gives you intensity so you don't have to face the silence where purpose might demand a response. Under every protected feeling is usually a protected truth. What you endured, what you needed, what you are no longer willing to tolerate. That truth is not your enemy, it is your compass. The tragedy is you've been numbing the very instrument that could guide you out. So when the dark night strips away relief, it isn't only taking something from you, it's returning something to you. Sensation, memory, conscience, reality. Reality is frightening at first, but reality is the only place freedom exists. And now we get to the final threshold, the place where the dark night stops being a prison and becomes a passage. Finally, the dark night doesn't end when you feel strong. It ends when you stop confusing numbness with peace. It ends when you realize craving is not a command, it's a signal, a flare from the part of you that still believes escape is the only safety. Addiction was never your deepest problem. Disconnection was. Disconnection from your body, from your emotions, from real intimacy, from meaning, from the quiet inner voice that kept trying to guide you and getting ignored. The ritual didn't make you evil, it made you absent. The dark night is the painful reversal of that absence. Sensation returns, conscience returns, reality returns. Not as punishment, but as an invitation to come back. So don't vow perfection, choose presence. When the urge rises, don't ask how to win forever. Ask what your system is begging for right now. Calm, connection, meaning, rest, honesty. Then give it the cleanest version you can, not the fastest version, the cleanest. Tell one truth, take one stabilizing step, reach out to one real person, change one part of the environment, ride one wave without obeying it. That's how freedom forms, not through grand speeches, but through repeated moments of self-respect. And if you're scared you can't do it, good. That fear means you're taking reality seriously. But don't let fear bully you into secrecy. If you feel out of control or in danger, seek professional help and real support in your life. That isn't weakness, it's intelligence. Isolation is where the ritual thrives. If this hit close, ask yourself one honest question and answer it without performance. What has my addiction been protecting me from? Grief, anger, loneliness, or meaning? Because once you can name it, you can finally meet it. The dark night is not your identity, it's a passage, and passages are meant to be crossed.